Welcome back. Today I'm going to try to analyze the rapid games that I played yesterday. If I remember right, I won both of them, but usually there's still something I can learn. Let's just take a look. If you're not familiar with my channel, I'm not a titled player or a chess coach. I'm just a random person who enjoys chess and I'm trying to get better at it. One way to do that is to analyze our games. This one says I played like a 1700 and my opponent played like a 550. Okay, well, before the end of the game changed our ratings, they were actually rated a few points higher than me. But yeah, it says they did not play very well at all. Okay, well, I said I remembered winning it, but I don't remember them playing really poorly. I remember them, I think, blundering on the last move or two, which allowed me to win. But looks like both of us had some problems here. I opened with e4, my opponent responded with e5, very common. I played the Vienna game. They played knight to c6, and I got my bishop out. This is all very standard. These are book moves. Usually my opponent here plays knight to f4, or sometimes they get the bishop out too. This one played I said f4, I'm at f6. So again, we're still in book. Usually in the Vienna game, as I've mentioned a lot, I go ahead and play my f pawn if they block their queen in with that knight. Now here, it's not a good idea. Apparently it's only a good idea if I haven't gotten this bishop and they haven't gotten that knight out. So in other words, if they had played their f knight first, knight to f6, then playing f4 wouldn't be so bad. But it says this is inaccurate, because they can just take my e4 pawn, which is defended. Sorry. Okay, well, let me take a look at that because I'm going to have an opponent that knows that and if I make this mistake. So if they take that, why wouldn't I take back? It says I wouldn't, but I gotta know, why wouldn't I take back? Because then they play d5, and they get one of these two pieces. Okay. And it says I would play bishop to d3, blocking in those pawns. Oh, I guess that's so that I can take back when they take. Okay. So I would drop back here. They would take my knight, and then I would take there. And I was going to say I'm down a piece, but I'm not. We're even on material. Oh, because now they can take here. If they do take there, then I would play knight to f3, right? Okay, and that does prevent the check. And I'm about to play my d pawn, which would allow me to retake this pawn. So I guess they're just up -1 because they got an extra pawn? Well, I'm not convinced they would be that far ahead if they took this pawn, because I would actually be ready to castle in the position at the end of this variation. Sorry, I had to switch browsers. The previous browser that I was using kept messing up, but this one has a slightly different number here, and the other one said I had 2 mistakes versus my opponent's 4, but this one said I had 3 mistakes. And it says I played like a 1600 and my opponent played like a 500, so a lot of these things changed just for me switching browsers. That's really interesting. Okay, it has upgraded my f4 from an inaccuracy to a mistake, so I'm guessing the different browsers are using different versions of Stockfish to run the game review. I don't think I've ever made a single video where something about the interface didn't distract me. I'm gonna go on now. The opponent did not do the best move, which is taking that pawn. They just took this f pawn, which they didn't have to. I honestly expected maybe the d pawn to move, which defends their center pawn and allows their bishop out. But they took that, which I thought was fine. And now I play knight to f3 and we're just about even. And here my opponent surprised me by playing bishop to d6. Up until that point, I have seen all these moves before. That one I haven't seen, I don't think. Now I think I have seen them come out here to b4, and then when I push this pawn up, they retreat to d6, but I don't think I've ever seen somebody get it out to d6, because they've already blocked off their c pawn. Now they've blocked off their d pawn, so they're going to have to move those 2 pieces again before they can move any pawns. I didn't know that it was a mistake. I just thought it was weird. And sometimes when you see a move that looks weird, it's a mistake, but other times when you see a move that looks weird, it's brilliant. So I had no idea. Clearly they were trying to defend this pawn because I'm about to attack it, but I castled. And Stockfish wants my opponent to correct what they did on the last turn. They want them to go ahead and put the bishop on b4. Just before Stockfish changed, it had also said bishop to e7. So it wanted to put it on one of those 2 squares. But now it says castling's all right too, which they did. So I'm not sure why it's counted as inaccurate. The rating did not change. I am supposed to play d4. Okay. So we're fairly good here. Yes, I'm up +1, but I don't have any extra material. In fact, my opponent is still up a pawn, that one right there. But I think with these 2 pawns fairly far advanced, my 2 center pawns, compared to one of their center pawns being diverted and the other one not moved yet, I think maybe that's where my +1 comes from. Also, because of all those pieces in front of their pawns, I'm going to be able to start challenging them with my pawns, I think. Okay, now my opponent put their bishop on b4 as if they had intended to earlier but messed up, but now it's not a good idea, and it's because I can play e5. I did play e5, but when I said that just now, I was just reading the engine. I didn't know that that's what the best move was. The reason that I chose e5, and I did hesitate on this decision for a little bit, is because if they do take this knight over here, like for example, if I played a3 and they took this knight and I took back, well then my e-pawn isn't defended anymore. So I thought, if I move it forward, not only is it now defended, but it is attacking that knight. I thought that the knight might move in here, and if so, I could just take it. Because it's not like I haven't castled yet. If I hadn't castled yet, and they moved that knight in there, well, then they've got 2 pieces pointed at this pinned knight now, and I can't move it. But I have castled, so the knight's not pinned. It can go anywhere it wants. In fact, it says I can move it now, but then they would take it and we would do some trading for it. Well, I did play e5. And I kind of expected them to put it on g4 because lately Stockfish has been very adamant about knights being over here on b4 and g4, or mine being on g5 and b5. It likes that a lot, but here it does not, and it says knight to h5 would actually be their best move. I'm not sure why they would put it on h5, but if they did, then I could hop my knight to d5, which their knight can't take anymore, and then I'm threatening the bishop, which has to move again, or probably should move again. But they dropped back, which I didn't know if that was their best move, but it could have been. Obviously, I'm not an expert, but I did notice that it keeps this rook from coming over. And now there's nothing defending this f-pawn, because remember when they put this bishop here blocking in their own pawn, I thought the idea was to do this, but then they moved their bishop. So the f-pawn is now for the taking, and I took it. Obviously, I don't know that I'm up +2. We're still even on material. But by most normal methods of evaluating a position, I thought that I was a little ahead. I have pieces centralized. All my minor pieces are centralized. Together, those knights control a lot of squares across there. Obviously, the bishops are controlling squares, looking at things across here. My pawns are pointing forward. I thought I had to be doing well. I just didn't know +2. Here, they need to either bring the bishop back or take the knight. They took the knight. I'm going to take back. I think I snap took that one. Yeah, less than a second. And now they need to play d5. I think if they had, I probably would have taken with en passant, even though it says no. It says I would have just dropped this bishop back in here at d3. But they played d6, I guess aiming for the front of the pawn chain. Oh, there it is, knight to g5. I knew it. I didn't think of that during the game, but you see what I'm talking about. Stockfish is very often these days recommending the knights over there on b5 and g5. The b5 one I understand if they haven't castled yet, but their queen is out because you're aiming at this. But other than that, I don't understand what either one of those moves do. I do understand the second best move, bishop to g5, because it's blocking their queen. It says they would bring this knight back to e7 to keep my bishop from looking at their queen. I think they would probably play their f-pawn. Oh, they can't play their f-pawn. Their f-pawn's pinned. Oh, nice. Okay. But I didn't play either one of those, or any number of moves that might be almost as good as that but aren't showing up. I played a3. Now, I'm trying to remember why I played a3. Oh, I do remember. It's because I thought they might be about to attack this bishop, and I wanted a place to retreat the bishop. I didn't want to just retreat it one square, because then they could immediately come after it with the knight. Although I guess if they did that, that would help me undouble my pawns. But yeah, that's why I did that, was to be able to keep the bishop lined up with their king, because it's pinning that f-pawn right now. But that's a problem now, it says, because they can take here on e5, which they did. Okay, am I supposed to take back? It changed. I was just about to say I'm supposed to take back with the d-pawn, but it changed to taking back with the knight. It took Stockfish almost 10 seconds to make that decision, and it took me 1 second to make that decision. That's not because I'm smarter than Stockfish, and that's not what I intend to say. It's probably because I didn't consider all the things that Stockfish was considering. I thought if I took with the knight, then they might take here, and then I could take with the bishop. And then I would have 2 bishops pointed in the general direction of their king, and I thought that would be good for me. It wasn't because I was worried about a queen trade. If I'd taken with the pawn and we traded queens, I think I would have been fine. But they aren't supposed to take my knight. They're supposed to play bishop to e6. That's, I guess, because my bishop's undefended. But first, I would take their knight, which attacks their queen. So they would take back, doubling their pawns. That'd be 2 doubled isolated pawns. And then I would trade bishops with them, which would give them another isolated pawn. So even if they had played, I think if they had played their best move, it would have been even better for me. Because, yeah, they would have had 2 isolated pawns here doubled and another isolated pawn on the e-file. I would have been pretty happy with that. But they didn't play their best move. They just took my knight. And it is better to take with the bishop. Okay, I wondered about that. That's what I was talking about earlier. Now I have 2 bishops pointed at their king. Surprisingly here, my opponent played their best move, which was knight to d6. Now, if I just drop this back to d3, I'm up +1.5. But my plan the whole time, ever since moving the a-pawn, was to drop it back to a2, where it continues to point at the king. The engine says going this way would have been better than what I played, apparently. So when I drop back here, we'll almost go back to even. And it is because they can play bishop to e6, and we would trade, and they would get that isolated pawn. But my opponent would be doing just as well as me if that's what happened. Okay, I'm not sure I understand that. I guess it would have been a wasted move on my part. But instead they played knight to b5, which, okay, wow, that's a huge mistake. I didn't know it at the time because it's aiming at 2 undefended pawns. Now I came up with queen to d3 as my move here because not only does it aim at the knight, right? But it also defends this pawn that it's next to. And if they use that as an opportunity to take the other undefended pawn, I thought it wouldn't be long before I'd be able to try something like this, pick up another pawn and get their knight too. But I didn't know if that was a good idea. I just thought, why not protect this pawn, since I can't protect the other one? Well, I guess I could protect the other one. I could move the bishop and that would protect my a pawn, but then they would still have this one, which attacks my queen. I had no idea. That gives me +4. Wow. Okay, well that's counted as a great move because it's the only move that gives me +4, and they are supposed to put it back. It's their best move. Or get the king off of here, I assume, so they can move the f pawn. Yeah. Wait, that's their second best move, and I'm just going to take the knight. But if they played their best move, then my best move would be queen to g3. Oh, because I would be lining up for this? Well, I'm not seeing the +4.5 here. I expected my opponent to take the a pawn because, again, it's undefended and they had just forked those 2 pawns. But they surprised me by playing this. I didn't know what that did other than undefend the f pawn, which my rook is also pointed at. So it was probably a good idea to take the f pawn, right? Oh, I should have taken with the rook. All right. It's only counted as inaccurate to take with the bishop by the game review, but Stockfish says it's +6 or +12. That's double. That should have been a blunder to go down that bad. I mean, not down, obviously. It's +6 even if I blunder here, but still, that's a huge difference to me. But I took there because it's a check. To me, I mean, that's a forcing move. They only have 2 options. I figured getting in front of it would be bad because then I can move the bishop and they would be in check again. So they went here and I took the rook. Was that my best move? It was close. Oh, I could have taken the knight also. Okay, but it wasn't bad to take the rook, and I figured they would take back with the queen. But I'm just up an exchange and a pawn. So yeah, I had no idea I'm up +6. I thought maybe +2. Oh, and I wish I had thought of this during the game. That's a free knight. Oh my goodness. But during the game, I saw that, oh, when they took my bishop there, they ended up defending the knight, so I can't just take it. But I realize now that I can just take it because they can't take back without giving up mate. However, based on the next couple of moves, this opponent might have taken back and given me the mate. I wish I'd realized that during the game that I could just take the knight. But instead, I just lined up a rook on their queen, which is something that I often do. I don't know why that one just gets a check mark because that's a higher number than what it said my best move was. 6.5? 6. Oh, see, now this one's rising. Oh, wait. Now it says rook a to e1 is my best move. That's twice in this game I've been better than Stockfish. I shouldn't boast of things of which I know not. But anyway, yeah, it did not say that until I played it and backed up. Now it says that's my best move. I do that a lot just because there is a discovered attack here, so they have to do something. And what they should have done was played king to g8 so that wouldn't be a check when I took over there. Or played bishop to e6 so that if I did check over there, my rook wouldn't be attacking their queen. But instead they got their queen out of danger, and so I checkmated them. So that's what leads me to believe that had I seen the knight earlier, that they might have taken it and given me the mate a move earlier. So I was hoping to have learned from my 3 mistakes, this f4 thing, but I followed that line out quite a bit. I didn't understand why that puts them ahead. And this mistake here, I don't really understand that one either, because my opponent played their best move after that and I was still fine. And this mistake, I'm not sure I understand that either, other than maybe it's a wasted move because they can immediately challenge it. And I should have put it here where it still continues to aim toward the king. I just wanted it to aim at that pawn, you know, with the king on the other end of it. But that would have been better. I'm not sure why. So yeah, that didn't help me much, but I think I understood the opponent's mistakes better than I understood mine. And the other game I played last night was on Lichess, and in this one, after a few moves, I started to suspect that my opponent was trying to lose. It's interesting because when they started the game, their rating was 1500 with a question mark, which could either mean that they had gone up or down earlier and then got back to 1500 and then hadn't played in a while, because on Lichess, when you haven't played in a while, it adds a question mark to your score. Or it means they're brand new and hadn't played any rapid games yet. But because I am rated around the 1500 range, I sometimes get players who have never played a rapid game on the site before, even if very occasionally their bullet or blitz scores are way above mine. You know they're really good at chess, and then they play their very first rapid game against me, and I'm I'm no match for that. But anyway, in this one, my opponent opened with knight to f3, which I don't see very often. You see that more at the higher rating levels, right? I see grandmasters play that. I've seen international masters play that in games that I've watched online, but I don't, people at my level don't play it very often. When I do see it, I just match it with knight to f6. That's what I did here. And then they got the other knight out. And the reason that I played my knight instead of one of the pawns is because I don't know which pawn they're going to play. Stockfish says here I should play d5, which, I mean, it's defended, but then what if they play d5? Then we're in a queen's pawn opening, which I'm trying to avoid. So I played g6, which it says was fine. That's what I've been playing. But then they play e4, which comes after this knight, right? One more move and it's going to be attacking the knight. I can stop that with d6, so I did. Now they're supposed to get another pawn in the center, but instead they brought that forward anyway. And that's the first sign that I got that something's weird here. Because usually once I play the d6 pawn, an opponent wouldn't push that one forward. Now I just take it, and yes, they can take back, and they did, but then I fianchetto my bishop, and I'm ready to castle. And they've already moved this knight twice. They're not ready to castle. They've given up one of their center pawns for no reason, really. Their best move, it says, is to play d4, or just as good is to get this bishop out, and then I will castle. But instead they checked here, which seemed a really weird place to check since I can just push this pawn. It's not actually my best move to block with the pawn, but I did because now it forces the bishop to go back. If I had blocked with the knight, like the engine said, that's weird because they already have a knight pointed there. In fact, Stockfish says it would block with the knight that I've already moved instead of a knight that I need to develop. Okay, well, c6 makes more sense to me because now their bishop has to go somewhere. It backed up. I could have chased it with the pawn, but I just thought, why not castle? And then I don't have to worry about that pawn being pinned or anything like that. So I'm good to go. At this point, I still don't suspect anything about my opponent other than they might be new because of the question mark on their score. And another sign of a new player is that they've gotten pieces out. They've moved each of these pieces twice, right? They got them out and moved them again. They put this other knight here in front of the pawn. They still haven't moved their queen pawn. These are little signs, not big signs, but little signs that in general might mean, your opponent is not very experienced at chess. So I started to gain a little confidence here. And then my confidence started to fall apart when they played g4 because, oh no, they're bringing all those kingside pawns. But then I reminded myself, that's also a sign, can be a sign of a new chess player. They haven't castled. That king is not safe. This rook is not out, and they're just throwing pawns. Now, I can't just take that yet because they do have a knight here that is guarding that pawn, and their queen's guarding that pawn. The engine wants me to play queen to d4. Oh, I guess so I would have another attacker? But then wouldn't they do what they had intended and push it forward? It says no. Oh, because I'm attacking this knight. It says they would just bring the knight back, and then I would get that pawn. Okay, I can understand that. That's what I should have played. But instead I got this other knight out. I didn't know if they wanted to trade for it or not. Their knight's currently undefended. And the next move is what alerted me to the fact that this opponent was not trying to win or didn't know how to win. They played f3. It's not the fact that they moved f3. It's the fact that I just attacked this knight thinking we might get a trade or they would run away, but they just left it there. So, of course, I took it, and then my opponent played h4. Well, I had no idea it was my best move to give up the knight for a pawn, and it says they wouldn't take it. Well, Stockfish has vastly over or underestimates my opponent. Yes, my opponent, well, maybe not this one, but my normal opponents would definitely take there. So why shouldn't they take there? If they take there, it's really bad because I'll take here. Oh, and their queen's not gone. They're going to just block that. And that's really good because of queen to d5. I'm still not on board with this. What's going on? And it says after I play queen to d5, they're going to castle. That's not d5, sorry. Oh my goodness. I was like, A, why wouldn't they take my queen? And B, they can't castle because my queen's defending that spot. But it says d5, which is here aiming at the rook, and then they would castle to get out of that. But then I would go to e4, which aims at the bishop, aims at the knight, but they would play d3, and I would take the bishop. Okay, wow, that seems pretty complicated. Yeah, I didn't give up my knight for the pawn. I'm already up a knight, but now it's saying I can give it back. Oh, I guess I'm getting 2 pawns out of it? Okay, well, I just moved this knight over here. Again, offering a knight trade. And if they didn't want it, I thought I might come in here to keep that pawn from going any further forward. But instead, they pushed a different pawn further forward. I wasn't sure what they were about over there, so I took their knight, which threatens their queen, so they need to take back with one of the pawns instead of continuing pushing those pawns. So they did take back, but that allows me to trade queens. Is that my best move? Yes, best move to trade queens. It forces their king to move, so they can't castle. Not that they would want to, but it also allows me to take that f-pawn, which their queen had been defending, but it's not defending anymore. The engine would just come after the knight right now, or play h6. I was a little worried about h6 because of, obviously then I would have to move this bishop out of there, but instead they just took my g-pawn, which I thought helps me. Normally you would want to take toward the center, but since they had a rook over there, I thought it would be better to take the other way, which would let my rook out. And that does turn out to be correct, taking with the f-pawn. And then my opponent played bishop to f4. I mean, obviously I can just take it, but at this point I had already begun to suspect something was off with this opponent. So instead of taking the bishop, I just took this pawn. I took the pawn because it points through my knight, toward their king, and then I can move my knight anywhere. So I thought that they were now going to move this bishop someplace. It is one of their best moves to put it on c7, but instead they finally moved their king toward the knight, which... Now that I've got this bishop here, why would you do that? Because now I just move the knight, right? It's not my best move. It's my best move to take the bishop again. But I just moved the knight, which puts them in check. And after I did that, I realized, oh, they're just going to move up where they can protect the bishop. But they didn't. They moved over so that when I take the bishop, it's with a check. And then I thought, oh no, they're going to come up here where they're threatening my rook. And then when I move my rook, they're going to get the bishop. But instead they just moved over there where I can check them and win the rook for the bishop. Also, I could take this bishop too. It looks like either one of those is a pretty good move. I checked them. They got out of check a way that I didn't expect them to. I expected them to come forward toward my rook, but they didn't. And so I got their rook for free and then they resigned. So now the little summary down here just says that they made 2 blunders. Of course, I didn't make any. I just had one inaccuracy. I don't even remember what move it was. This list is so difficult for me to read with all those annotations in there. But yeah, I was surprised that they only had 2 blunders. It felt more like more than that. Anyway, I did check the opponent's profile. They've only played now 2 rapid games. This was the first one, and then there was one after this that they also lost. And I've long been a proponent of brand new players in any rating category only playing against other brand new players. I know that it doesn't feel like it makes sense because they should play against people with established ratings so they would know which direction they need to go, up or down. But I think that their first couple should go against other brand new players, and there's always plenty of them. So that the one who loses gets a lower rating and the one who wins gets a higher rating. And after a couple of games, then they can start playing against established players and see what happens. But there's a bunch of people right around the 1500 rating level that have played hundreds of games. In my case, I think more than 1,000 rapid games, and I'm still right around that range. So I get brand new players who've never played chess before, and I'm going to beat easily. Or players who have played chess before, but they're sandbagging to get a lower rating so that it will be easier to climb up. Or players that are really good, but they've just never played rapid on this site before. And none of those games really are good for me. That's why I think when you're brand new, the first game or 2 should play against other brand new players. And I think maybe that would help sort that. But they've probably thought about that, and there's a reason they didn't do it. Anyway, hopefully you got something out of this. I think I did a little bit, but yeah, I'm not sure how much I got from these analyses of these games. Anyway, thank you for spending your time here, and I'll see you next time.